Let's take you back to Pietermaritzburg and our coverage of social workers at Lifeline. They're among the silent heroes for many women and children suffering from gender-based violence. Newzroom Afrika's Karinda Jagmohan is standing by to speak to three phenomenal women who have been doing very important work. It's over to you. Good morning.
Certainly, good morning to you. We've just heard from the director of Lifeline, Pietermaritzburg, about the work that the over 100 social workers from this office do on the ground across KwaZulu-Natal. I'm joined by three powerful women who have been helping women, children, both female and male, go through very difficult circumstances. I'm going to start with you, Ms. Shingiwe. Thank you for speaking to us. You work at the Taylor's Halt area regarding intimate partner violence, and you have to speak to women who might be going through abuse. Tell us about how you deal with the situation, what you have to approach.
Okay. My name is Shingiwe Mhlapo. I'm working at Taylor's as a social worker employed by Lifeline. So I'm dealing with a GBV section. So at Taylor's we also get cases that's intimate partner violence, called as IPV. Those cases, when they come at Taylor's, sometimes it's traumatic because they also triggered you because you are a human being. These cases takes also make you feel uncomfortable because sometimes you find that the survivor that came as brutally injured. So you have to see all that yourself as a social worker. I remember there's a case that I also attended. I think attended that case. It's just traumatic because children were also there witnessing when the parent was getting beaten by the father, and she also got injured in such a way that she also lost her body parts. That's also traumatic to me because when the children are there witnessing that, they also get traumatized. Also build anger to a child. If it's a boy, that means that the gender-based violence is also going to be repeating itself even at school. So when we attend, you don't just only attend the survivor only. Even the children are there, you also need to also provide counseling to those children because they also going to be at school. The school performance are going to be affected, and also they also going to be, maybe some of them imitate what the perpetrator do, and if you as a social worker you interact to them, you're also going to help those children with their mental health, because sometimes children, they're not going to show it now that they affected with this. Later on they're going to act it out to their children.
So you have to essentially ensure that you prevent this abuse from continuing. I just want to go now to Jabulile. You work at the Rape Crisis Center, and we just had a conversation about male children who have been raped. I want to talk about how you have to deal with this and this approach.
Okay. Thank you for having me. It's very difficult, but as we are trained, we need to give them support all the time. Having to encourage a male child to speak about the rape that is happening. And most of the time, they feel alone, so you need to be there all the time. And make the child be aware that whatever that has happened to him, it will be okay. And thank you for speaking up. And we give them continuous counseling. Yes, and it's an ongoing counseling because you have to look at how he adjusts. We even have to book them for the psychologist at the hospital. We do everything for them.
Because it's not easy for a male to speak up.
It's not easy for a male to speak up because of the stigma also by the community. If you are a male and you are being raped, they feel like you're not a man enough. Yeah.
Sure. Tulisile, I just want to talk to you about what you go through. You also become threatened as well. You work at Placa Police Station, which has one of the highest crime rates. Tell me about your personal experience.
Yeah, thank you. As a social worker in the GBV section, it's not easy at all, especially when you look at the area of Placa. There are so many cases that we're dealing with there. So sometimes we get ourselves being threatened by the perpetrators. And another thing that I want to point out is that we don't get the support from the parent, especially if we have rape cases. So other parents, they don't even want to be involved on those cases. They don't want to open the cases. So you, as a social worker, I need to be there for the child and open the case myself. So the perpetrator, so I become the threat. So they come for me because I'm the one who opened the case. That's another case. Another thing is that, especially in the IPV, intimate partner cases, sometimes the community, they don't support the survivors when they're going back to the community. They're judging them for opening the case. So I don't know what is happening there, but every time when we are with the client, we're just reminding them that's okay, you've already opened the case now, and this is what you need to expect is going to happen after you open the case. So we're making sure that they are aware that there are people out there who are going to judge them for opening the case. Yes.
I'm amazed by the work that you all do. You are on call 24/7, even in the middle of the night. And I'd like to know briefly from each one of you, what pushes you to go through this, to be that guardian to victims? Let me start with you, Tracy.
Okay, as I've already said, that being a social worker is not easy. Sometimes it's emotional training, but and we are there for people. We are there to help them. What other thing that's encouraging us is to see the transformation from our clients. You know, when they're starting, let me say, if you are on the first session, we're seeing the client was emotionally, he was suicidal. So now, after maybe few sessions, the client is starting to plan ahead. My future, I need to do this, especially because we're working with the IPV cases. So when the client was staying with an abusive partner, so they come to us so hopeless. Some of them, they were depending financially to that partner. So if the client afterwards, you see the client is planning the future without the partner, then we can see there's no, my work is done now. That's what is encouraging us.
To plan ahead.
As a social worker, to keep on going. Yes.
Joey, tell me about you. What pushes you? You deal with children, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. I think being a social worker is a calling. So we do beyond. So seeing the change, and what makes me going is that when they come and show the results, and you in a session with a client, they're smiling more, unlike before. You know, that give you that courage that I've done my work. Yes.
Hlengwe, you work with women who are abused. What do you tell them? What pushes you? And what message do you have for other women?
Let me start it here. Social worker is a calling. Because if you don't have that calling, you're going to end up getting those burdens or those strains, like she said. What pushes me, because as I grew up in that environment, so it was traumatic to me. And then I have to thank my mother for that, because she walked out in the relationship, but she left us and we became child neglect. So I thank her, because all those things that was happening to her, I don't want me to experience it. So I got cautious that, if this is happening to me, I have to walk out of it. That social worker, doing social worker to me was, I think it was a calling, so I can break that cycle of being a child that coming from that vulnerable family. And seeing my clients, I think I can say clients, but my survivors, because I also had one survivor that also attended. It was, I think, it's economic strengthening where they would get empowered. She called me in and said, "Hey, no social worker, can you please phone my perpetrator and thank him thank you for making me look, thank him for putting me in that situation." She said like that, because now she's growing up and she's taking charge of her life now, and she's doing everything for herself.
Just before we wrap, let me maybe finish with you, ma'am. We have spoken about how communities often don't say anything. Just a quick line about the importance of speaking out when you see someone in need of help.
Okay, it's very important that you speak out. I know the community will think that we mustn't get involved because we will go to the police. Be anonymous and tell somebody that's what is happening. Especially at TCC, you need to be there within 3 days to the crisis center. So it's best to speak up, because if you know that we can also arrest you for knowing and not saying anything.
Thank you so much. The silent heroes that walk among us, social workers from the Lifeline NGO representing social workers across the country, whether private or public. There are so many elements that push them to do the work that they do, to deal with communities who are facing crises. And I also asked Sinikiwe Biela what pushes her as well, and a very similar sentiment echoed is to see the smile on a person's face after they've gone through and recovered from trauma, and knowing that they're okay. These are the women, the men as well, who make sure that they are okay. So that is why, of course, we see and celebrate the silent heroes, social workers countrywide.
Absolutely, Karinda, Jagmohan, because you also see the files behind those women, so many boxes, which tells you there's so many cases that they deal with. Thank you very much for that report.